So today we're going to talk about why it can seem, or it can be actually, almost impossible for most people to lose weight. Okay, it sounds crazy, but it's true. There's like this epidemic and everyone's trying to lose weight and trying a million different things. There's even scientists and doctors out there that even believe that it's impossible for a human being to lose weight and keep it off. That if you're obese or that you're chubby, that it means that that's the way you're genetically wired. There are doctors and scientists that are out there that believe this. Okay, so it's a crazy epidemic, and let's look at why it is almost impossible for most people to lose weight and keep it off. And I will give you the simple solution to this, okay? The simple solution, I'm just going to jump right to it, is because people are not thinking in terms of eating a plant-based diet. That is the key. That is the key. Plant-based eating, okay? That doesn't even necessarily mean that you need to become a complete vegetarian or vegan, but at least, you know, try to keep your meat intake to no more than maybe like 2 pounds a week, at least while you're trying to lose the weight. And I would say 2 pounds a week, not a day, a week should be the max. It should be more like 16 ounces of meat a day. No, sorry, a week that you're taking in. That should be about the maximum, okay? Why? Why is it that the plant-based gives you an edge? And why is it almost impossible? And not just plant-based, but a good percentage of it should be raw, uncooked foods. Let me explain why. One, with the meat. Why the meat? Because when you eat a lot of meat, when you eat meat, it tends to trigger a lot of appetite in you. Meats, why? Because meats are cooked in sauces. Sauces and oils and spices and these sodium-based things. When you eat meat, it triggers a lot of appetite in you. If you compared that, and this may sound weird to a lot of people, but if you compare that to somebody that only ate, let's say, raw salad and, you know, chopped, little chopped fruits and things like that, you would see that the person that eats the plant-based diet, particularly with a lot of raw foods, it's much easier for them to keep their calories down. That's the big thing, if you want to call it secret, is you keep your calories down when you're eating plant-based, particularly with a lot of raw foods, particularly a lot of raw vegetables, okay? And when you start involving meat and cooked foods, it becomes very, 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 very difficult to keep your calories under control, and you tend to be hungrier, okay? Now, I'm not saying you need to be a 100% raw foodist, because I'm not. I barely even hit 50%. But those days where I have 50, 60% of my raw food, those are always the days that my calories are much, much lower. And I'm thinking way less about food. Whereas when I have cooked food that's made with like a little bit of extra grease and sodium, you know, salts and sodium-based spices, those are the days where I'm just like, oh my God, you know, that was good. What am I going to eat again? It triggers that in you. So that is part of the problem, is cooked food can sort of create like an addiction. Cooked foods and eating too much fat and too much sodium and spices. So what I suggest, and I'm not saying that that this is the only way, but I personally believe a little more in eating high carb, low fat, where you keep your fat intake to like no more than about 10 to 15%. Because fat tends to, when you eat fat, you tend to want more of it. You eat fat, you want more of it. When you eat high carb, low fat, particularly with some decent amount of raw food, you tend to eat and be satisfied and just like not crave food anymore. You eat a little bit, you eat your meal, and you just walk away, you don't think much of food. But you start eating a lot of fat, things with oils and cheese and things like that, and then you just get consumed with wanting more fat again. So it triggers like some people call it like the fat instinct. And all this stuff creates what could be called like toxic hunger, wanting all the sodium and the salts and the fat. So to break away from that and create like a kind of more of a peaceful appetite, so to speak, where, you know, you eat after a lot of hours have gone by, and you find yourself eating less, you find yourself snacking a bit less, not because you're forcing it. Your whole kind of like system starts to transform. So that's why it's almost impossible, because people are eating the meat, people are eating the cooked foods, it triggers the appetite, they want more food. So you break away from that by eating more plant-based food. And I'll give you examples. Even healthy, low-fat, let's say vegan, is still cooked. Cooked vegan is not going to be as effective, although you can definitely get great results. But it's not going to be as effective as somebody who eats a lot of raw food, low-fat raw foodist, because when, again, even cooked vegetables versus raw vegetables. Imagine you had broccoli and cauliflower and zucchini, and you had that raw with like a very tasty low-fat dressing that you love. Now, you would be filled up, let's say on, 400 calories or whatever, 200, 300, 400 calories, you'd be quite satisfied. You had the same amount of calories, the same amount of that food, and you cooked it raw. You actually cooked it. Let's say you boiled it. You would need more calories to be satisfied. And you can experiment for yourself. You'll see you need way more calories to be satisfied when you start cooking your food. So that is why it becomes almost impossible to lose the weight. When you're basing it on cooked foods, especially eating a lot of meat and a lot of fat. The appetite's always triggered, you want more food. So the solution, break away, eat a plant-based diet. I recommend mostly high carb, low fat, 10 to 15% maximum of fat, 15% maximum, and try to have about 50% of that be raw. So that just means uncooked, mostly uncooked vegetables. However you want to do that with a kind of dressing that you enjoy, or creative ways that you can make it tasty. I'm not talking about, chopping up, like zucchini and squash and just munching on that. Some people can get themselves to do that, but most people will get tired of that pretty quickly. So try to find ways that you can make it tasty with very healthy dressings. And you can make home-based dressings really easily. I don't do it, but it can be done. Like, believe it or not, it's as simple as taking a blender, putting in some vinegar, some freshly squeezed orange juice, some peppers, some green peppers, some onion, and some tomatoes. Okay, you put that in a blender, you blend it for like a minute and a half, you have a healthy dressing right there. Something that simple can be a dressing that you can make and put no oils in it. So you try that, it will make your life so much easier. You will be able to lose the weight. It will be so much easier to lose the weight. I mean, we're in a time and place where there are some scientists that even believe that it's impossible to lose weight. I mean, how wacky is that? Of course people can lose weight. It's just that because they're trying to do it with high meat-based cooked foods with too much fat, so in that way it is virtually impossible to lose the weight and keep it off. Okay? So hope you'll take this advice. It can make a huge difference. Good luck.